Hello, everybody. Welcome to Myriacast episode 6. Today's topic of discussion is MOBAs. With me today is my co host on the bottom of your screen, SPT Spoon. Spoon, say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Good to see you again.
Yep. And today we have a very special guest.
Special.
Oh my goodness. This person is part of the Myriathon group and somebody who has quite a bit of, we'll say, experience in various different types of MOBAs. I know League, and he's played some heroes with us. Dodge, DodgeMan27, however you want to say it. Sometimes we say it to Jay. It's all up to you.
We don't say that.
We don't say that.
John
Okay, we don't say that.
Twitch.tv/Dashman27. Buy the merch for the Myriathon.
Mhm.
Buy the merch.
Mhm.
Buy the shirts. This is the Swear Jar shirt made just for me because I do that a lot.
But Dodge is joining us today for this episode. We are going to be hopefully bringing on guests more periodically, and we're excited to have Dodge today. Let me just get through the intro real quick, fellas, and then we'll just get right into it, into the nitty gritty of today. This is going to be a lightning fast version of our introduction. The Myriathon is a charity group. We play video games. We give to charities. It's biannual. Come see our various different marathons. There's one coming up June 11th to 14th, we think. Be sure to stop by and support us. We have a Twitter, we have a YouTube, we have a Twitch, there's a SoundCloud. We're also on Anchor and various different platforms like Spotify and Google. For most of those, just search the Myriathon. On YouTube, be sure to put a space in between the and Myriathon and support us there. Maybe if you enjoy the VODs or you like the live shows, go ahead and support us on those channels as well. Every little bit counts. It's really important to be able to spread the word on the things that we're talking about and doing here. Okay, that's the introduction.
Follow, subscribe.
Like, follow,
Smash
subscribe.
those buttons.
Smash that like button. Subscribe
Smash
to our
that like
Twitch
button.
and YouTube channels. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, on Instagram. We don't have an Instagram. That's a lie.
No, we don't.
Facebook. We don't have that either.
No, we don't have a Facebook.
But we could.
Though Otto and I have been posting on our personal Facebooks just to get the
It's true.
word out a little
It's
bit.
true.
That's true. That's a fact. I do stalk them on Facebook, so I have seen those posts.
You do. I guess you're doing a good job because I didn't know that.
That's weird. That's something we didn't know, folks. Dodge is apparently stalking us on Facebook. Off to a different topic, not necessarily stalking. So let's talk a bit about MOBAs, but more on the side of what's a MOBA? What is that?
Do you want me to read my paper that I wrote back in college for my writing class? That's all about the origins of MOBAs.
Yeah, go ahead.
I actually have that. I don't have it open right now, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like you mentioned, it started out as a mod for Warcraft 3, if I believe that's correct.
Yep.
Called Defense of the Ancients.
Or Dota.
Or Dota. Some people might have heard of that. It's like an okay MOBA. Like it didn't get a sequel. But it did get a sequel because the devs figured out, hey, this is actually really good. So Valve made it a separate game called Dota 2, which is the first true MOBA really to be birthed, and like it's still around today. Probably the second largest MOBA still around, with League eventually using a lot of the assets from that and creating their own game, League of Legends, back in 2010, which is now probably the biggest video game in the world. It is still the biggest game in the world.
There's well, hopefully we'll get to talk about this later, and I do want to touch upon it at some point. There's some great stories involving the inception of League of Legends and Dota 2, and it also carries over into Heroes of the Storm. Actually, a lot of, I think, what is now the mainline MOBAs had some really interesting interactions with each other. So I hopefully will get to talk a bit about that, because there's a nice little YouTube series that I was watching before this. It's titled specifically Death of a Game blank, whatever the game is. And there's a really good one for Heroes of the Storm, and it talks about this beginning, which was Dota, the mod on Warcraft 3, and it talks about, okay, the path of all these different MOBAs and how they started, and then like how they're connected. It's a very cool little series, and I'll be sure to plug that into the chats and descriptions because I think it's a great series to better understand the history of this. It's so important to understand the history and how all these things come together. So, um, and then
MOBA, by the way, we didn't mention. MOBA stands for Multiplayer Online Battle Arena,
mhm,
which I don't know who came up with that moniker, and I'm not sure it fully. Well, I don't know what else you would call it, but the games are generally they are 5 versus 5 team games where each player controls one character on the map known as like a hero or champion, and there are 3 lanes generally with like AI controlled minions that just sort of walk down the lane and fight each other, and then like either towers or structures you have to destroy to eventually get to the enemy's base and
right,
take that out. That's kind of the objective of the game. Um, that's there's a lot more to it than that. Obviously, there's a lot more mechanics and elements to the map, and the things also depending on the game you're playing. But that's the general outline of how the game works.
right. That's a I would say that's a good summation for the vast majority of MOBAs. There's a couple others like Vainglory started as a 3v3, but that was a mobile based game. They did I think extrapolate into 5v5, but that's like there's some rare cases where but that description is spot on for the most part.
And a bit of
Um,
more history knowledge. I did actually find that paper real quick.
okay,
Um,
good.
sourced information, by the way. The actual origins, the first MOBA, Warcraft 3 Dota, is credited as the first MOBA, but the genre itself goes back a little bit further, dating back all the way back to 1998, where a user by the name of Aeon64 created an online battle arena pitting two-man teams against each other with the goal of constantly spawning minions and destroying each other's structures, which was actually a mod called Aeon of Strife off of StarCraft.
Okay.
So just a little bit
Yeah,
more history knowledge
a-
there, and then eventually
and
Warcraft.
there have been a variety of other mods within, I'm sure, both StarCraft and
Mhm.
Warcraft. I played one in the original in Warcraft 3 when I played that in the day called it was called Tides of Blood, but it was basically Dota. It was just a different,
Yeah,
like the heroes were different, but
Sure.
the concept was exactly the same.
Sure.
Like,
but this is a genre that's actually been kind of working its way through for decades at this point, and really kind of hit its stride with Dota 2, and then exploded obviously with the League of Legends scene. Eventually in 2013, they formed the LCS and the various leagues across the world, and that's what I think really it created a more structured system that we
Mhm.
hadn't seen before out of an esport, right? Usually we were seeing tournaments everywhere. You know, you'd have one-time tournaments or like small circuits of tournaments, specifically with Counter-Strike, with Dota, they use circuit-based tournaments and then one grand tournament. Whereas League of Legends said, okay, we're going to separate into different leagues as opposed to these big tournaments, similar to an actual professional sport almost, where it's
Mhm.
you're going to play a season, there's going to be a playoffs, and then you're going to qualify for this world championship through your own regional league as a separate entity for this goal of the world championship.
Right.
yep,
Which, yeah, I mean, obviously, that's getting more into the side of okay, we've got we'll call it traction for lack of a better term at the moment. This game has really become popular. Let's see if we can come up like a natural progression of almost any game that you could have a competitive aspect for it is to have a competitive community. I mean, it's not just League of Legends specifically that League of Legends didn't just like come up with this idea obviously,
Mhm.
but they were pretty self-aware. Okay, you've got a game that's inherently competitive when you play it. Let's like foster a community around that and let's promote that. I mean, that's just that general idea is obviously not a unique concept. So, but it's just like it just so happens obviously now League of Legends has I don't think it's wrong to say the most popular esport game on the market. It's just I don't think it's silly to say that. I
But
think it's just a
Overwatch
complete
League,
fact. Overwatch League. Lol is my response to that one.
one other MOBA I just want to mention quickly in our this kind of like intro origins talk of MOBAs and like what is a MOBA is, and I've never played it. I really don't know anything about it, but it was called Heroes of Newerth or
Yeah.
Han. Again, I've never played it. I heard about it a couple of times, but I really know nothing about it. But I just wanted to give it a quick mention, real quick, because it existed. It was a thing. Some people
Yeah.
played it. I'm not among them. I don't
Well-
think any of us are.
Let's do this. Actually, Spoon. Let's play a game early. We're gonna do an interactive game early.
Oh boy,
Chat
let's
can
play.
join me on this. I have a list of MOBAs that have come out since, we'll say, Defense of the Ancients came out. Okay, and I'll just give you an idea. Defense of the Ancients came out in 2003, according to my little document in front of me. I'm gonna let you guys list the MOBAs that you happen to know of, and I'll fill in some blanks on other MOBAs that may have been popularized. So, like I said, Dota. I'm already giving Dota away. You guys tell me more Dotas, and anybody in the chat that happens to know of more MOBAs that they want to put out there, put it out there, and let's just hear what everybody has. Because like I said, I have the list, so I won't necessarily be participating, but I have the list for you too. Okay, so
I'll go first, but I got
go back and forth. Dodge starts.
Dota 2.
Okay, Dota
Wow.
2.
Tough one. All right, Heroes of the Storm.
Here's the storm. Okay, hold on. Chat's coming in. 8C Ghost, who is Spoon's brother. Smite, and added a lull, appropriate.
Smite's a weird one.
Russell
it's a
with
third-person
Awesome
MOBA.
Knots. I actually didn't know that one. It is on here though on my list, so that's a good call. Connect 4.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Okay, we're digging deep. Okay,
Yeah,
I like it though.
Connect 4 though can be a multiplayer online battle arena.
Okay, that's
like you can
Okay.
multiplayer 2 people.
All right, let me throw.
battling it out in the
Let me
arena,
call. Let me.
like
Let,
the Connect
let me.
4.
Let me throw Call of Duty in the mix.
Okay,
Now let's
we're
get
going
that
off
shooter,
now.
Spoon.
Let's go
That's a
back.
shooter.
Come
on.
back. Dodge, do you have another one you want to list? We've got
League of Legends.
okay, League of Legends. Sure, why not? League of Legends.
How about
Boom.
Paragon? That was one, right?
Infinite Crisis.
Infinite Crisis. I'm pretty sure that is one. I feel like I've heard
It's
of
a
that
D.
one.
It was a DC MOBA.
It
Yep,
was
you're
a
correct.
DC
Infinite
MOBA?
Crisis.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any others for us? Dodge, you said Paragon. That is
There was
one.
that one Adventure Time MOBA that I saw in a Donkey video.
Adventure
actually
Time
did exist.
Battle Party. That is a game.
That is an actual game that
Russell
existed.
says Demigods. I feel like that also is on here. I just have to search for it. Demigod. Okay, Demigod is on here. Ghost has Dawngate. That's correct. Dawngate was the EA one that went into beta and then got closed right after beta.
What about the
Arena of
MOBAs
Valor
like-
from Tricourage is also correct. That's the I think that's the mobile one, but it's also on Switch. Any others that we want to put out there? That's a lot more than I thought.
I do not remember the name of it, but there was a Lord of the Rings one. I don't remember
There
the
is.
name of it though.
There is
Yeah.
a Lord of the Rings one. I don't know the name of it as well,
I think
but I know what you're talking
played that
about.
like way back.
I did too. I played it on Xbox like once. I played
Oh
like a
my
beta.
God.
I'm
or
pretty sure you're
something.
right. I don't know where it is.
No,
but-
no, I know I'm right. I know it existed. I just don't remember what it was called.
Okay, any others? Dodge, any others you want to bring out there?
I can't think of anything.
You can't think of any others? Spoon, do you have any more?
We talked about it before the episode, but Supernova.
Supernova was a shoot. It's not on this list, but I know it existed.
Bandai Namco mecha MOBA,
Yep.
basically.
So yeah,
Gundam
Namco
Not Gundam.
Bandai had a MOBA.
Unfortunately. Gundam
it-
MOBA sounds sick, by the way. I would play the crap out of that.
Gundam Crisis Mobile Battle Arena.
Let's see. Okay, let me just find some. So Vainglory, I already mentioned that, but that's okay. Heroes of Newerth, obviously. we
Yeah,
mentioned that.
Ghost is throwing Battleborn in the mix, and it's different, but it qualifies in some capacity.
So Battleborn
it's
isn't
more
on
of a
this list, but it's
shooter, right?
close. I mean, it's like it's
Yeah,
more like
I
an
mean,
Overwatch.
it was first person, and it was like Overwatch, but it also did have like
Guardians.
one of the
Middle-earth.
modes at least was like a MOBA. It was like push the towers and like you had minions and stuff
So-
like
Dude,
that. So
Smite actually is a pretty fun MOBA.
and
like-
Tyrus one
Tyler-
1 2
Tyler
3
coming in
or
with
Tyler in the
Guardians.
chat
Yep.
has Guardians of Middle Earth. Yes,
Correct.
that was the name of the Lord of the Rings one.
Let me find some other ones for you guys. So we did say Smite. Let's see here. Oh, there was a Warhammer one. Warhammer 40,000
Ooh, I got
Dark
one.
Nexus
I got one.
Arena.
All right.
Gosh.
Wild Rift hasn't come out yet. League of Legends has having
That's
a
correct.
mobile slash console version of
Yep,
League of Legends.
there's going to
That is
be
a
a
separate game.
iOS, Android consoles version of it. Yep.
It will be a separate game too, with a separate ladder, separate character, same characters but separate balance and everything,
Oh, interesting.
which is interesting.
Yeah. Okay, there's a couple more I'm going to mention. Marvel Super War is apparently on here. There's a Marvel one. It's made by NetEase, who happen to also be working on Diablo Immortal. So,
Great track record.
sad is all I have to
Well,
say.
that game's not out yet. They just got a bad rap at
Right.
BlizzCon, so maybe it'll actually be
You
good.
guys have phones, right?
Don't you guys
Let me
have
try and
fun?
find if there's another one. Okay, Gigantic. Gigantic was another one. That one's closing down.
How did I forget that one? I demoed that at E3. That game was actually kind of fun. I'm going to be honest,
fun,
at least when I demoed it.
And they really tried to push it. I played a mobile. Russell, so that's Vainglory. Vainglory is what you're thinking of.
Tactics?
That one still is going. No, Gigantic is closing down July 31st, according to this. That one tried to hype itself up a lot, and I think they just burned through all their cash right away. Okay, that was our little interactive game. Thank you, chat. You guys came through with a couple of good ones. I'll be honest.
We got a lot. We got a lot actually.
I'm gonna be honest. There's
Ghost
quite
stole
a
my
few in
smite.
here. So I am genuinely impressed because there's a lot of ones on here that I'm looking at like, what is that? What? So kudos to everybody. Round of applause to chat. Good job. Good job. Okay. That was the game for today. Let's talk a bit about I'm calling it the MOBA craze. Okay, so around 2012, I think is when this really started. There was this time where I swear, anytime I looked at articles, it was just like X publishers making this MOBA. And we talked about EA making Dawn Guard. The only reason I knew this because I was constantly reading articles about it. Like, oh, EA's coming out with this thing called Dawn Gate. It's going to be really big. Okay, very cool. Let's talk a bit about that. Anything goes on this topic in particular. Just talk about your own experiences with it and the things that you were reading. And it's just it feels like it was before. Obviously, right now we dealt with recently the battle royale craze, which we're still kind of in the middle, near the tail end of it. But
And
I
even
just
more
wanted
recent than that, the auto chess craze.
Yeah, auto chess too. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that was a smaller one.
That was
That
very brief.
Very small.
that only lasted a couple months, to be honest. And
Right.
It's still going on with your ads for Teamfight Tactics.
Oh gosh, I
Yeah.
get so many Teamfight Tactics ads. It's
Oh
crazy.
my god, it's crazy. League actually just went ham with the ads this year. But on
Yeah,
the topic of that, yeah, you go ahead.
I think basically around 2012, maybe 2013, in that range. That was right around when League was starting to get big, as Dodge said. LCS started in 2013. You said, right?
Yep.
So
Season 3.
yeah, so yeah, I mean, basically all these companies, game publishers, Activision, EA, etc., Bandai Namco, they're like, oh man, this is the money train, this is the new hotness, so let's get on it and let's try and make a killing off of this new MOBA craze, and really none of them stuck, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah,
But
unfortunately, the biggest craze about it is the fact that they were free to play, and most companies didn't really know how to create a good free to play game that was enjoyable to make people want to purchase cosmetic things for that free to play game.
Yep.
Which is why Paragon, I think, was one of the biggest flops of this generation, because that was the game that you saw all the ads for on Twitch, all the YouTube hype, all the hypes built around it, and you didn't know anyone who was playing it because it was a full price game. But you could play Dota 2 or League of Legends, who are just as popular, not nearly as advertised, and more easily accessible.
Yep.
Right.
Sure.
And they were more polished too.
Paragon actually is a great story I want to touch on later. Paragon's a really interesting story, I think.
Yeah.
Because there's some great stories for some of these MOBAs.
And the other thing with League, again, I haven't played Dota 2, so I don't know much about it, but that Leagues, I mean, I think League did for being the first one who kind of did this, it did its monetization pretty right. There's a couple different currencies. It's not it takes some grinding, but it's not that hard to get champions. Skins are where you really get gashed on the money. A lot of skins will cost $10 or more. Especially like the legendary ones will cost like, I don't know, $30-$40. I don't even know. It's
The
ridiculous.
ultimate ones cost 3250 RP, and let me do my calculations real quick on how much that is. Doing the mental math for sure right now. I do not have the client open. Definitely not. Let's see. If you were to purchase about 40, let's say 2800 RP, that's about $20. So an ultimate's going to cost you around $30, right?
Yeah.
35 with the RP
So
beginner.
that's a
So
high price tag.
That's one skin. But the thing is, Riot, like they do a really good job with their art. I mean, I guess the initial art for League of Legends was like pretty jank, to be honest. But like once they got
Nowadays, it's
rolling,
cool.
no, it's dope. It's really good. And their skins are really good. They're like less frequent now, and they also used to like release a champion like once every
week or two.
2 weeks, I think, maybe month at the most. Like they cranked them out, and then like once again the cash was pretty constant, and that now they've really slowed that down. And also, there's like, I don't know, 130, 140 champions in the game or something at that point. At this point, but like I feel like none of the other companies, again, I didn't really play any of them, so I don't know. But like when I see other companies try to do free to play games, they just like over monetize stuff. They make it like free to win. Stuff is too expensive. Sorry, they make it pay to win is what I meant to say. And they over monetize stuff. They make blue again, this is a little bit off topic, but if you go to like a game like Anthem or something, which like obviously is a full price game, and then like they have these microtransactions, it's like $10 for blue, and it's like, what? It's blue? Are you kidding me? Like
EA has always been the biggest offender of that thing. They're just like, oh, well, people like microtransactions. Let's just crumb up with the craziest microtransactions we can think of and just shove them out there. Battlefront 2, just sort of because we're a little bit on this topic. Battlefront 2 was some of the most egregious microtransaction setups with loot boxes. It was so, and I played that game because the campaign was actually pretty fun, but it was just horrible. It was so bad. So, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. No, really, go ahead.
I think the other thing is with the MOBA creators, or like even with like anything, like League of Legends and Dota 2 became established as like the two big ones that everybody played, and at that point, like those are the ones that everybody's playing. Like, yeah, you can make a new one, but unless it's like incredible and like leagues above those other two, you're not gonna find it. It's just like, again, once things are established and people have what they like they already spent a ton of money on League of Legends or Dota 2, and they're already invested in it. Why would they change and play a different game? Like, I don't know. Like,
okay,
so time commitment, right? Like, if you go the free to play route, which is what I did for most. Like, I've never bought a champion with RP. I bought them a lot with the other currency, which is now Blue Essence. Used to be IP. Don't know what it stood for anymore, but when there's 148 champions now, like 6,300 is the price of a new one after a week or two. So you multiply that by 148. Obviously, there's lower price tags. I think like 20 or so champions are 450, which is chump change, right? And then like
you get that in like 2 games or something like that. That's
real
like
quick. 1350, 3150, 4800, and 6300. And as more are released, they do bring down 5 or 6 champions, like the next tier, like every couple champions. But when you have that many, it does take almost years to unlock them all. But there's always that champion that you can look at and be like, I want to play that champion. I identify as someone who would enjoy this type of champion or this kit, and you can experiment with it. Sure, it's not the best system where you can't just try and play like that. I'll give credit to Heroes. You can look at a champion in Heroes of the Storm or a hero. You can click try hero right there. Takes you into the practice mode, and you can try that hero out right there and see if you like it. Can't do it in a game, but you can bring it into a practice area and try that. And League famously did not have a practice tool or any kind of good system of testing things out for years until I think last year when we finally got a actual designated practice tool, or season 8. I can't remember which one it was, but
the one thing that I'll say that I really disliked about League of Legends system initially, they've removed it at this point, or if they've altered it, is like
runes.
how the initial rune system, how they cost IP, and like once you got to max level, you had to spend all your IP on runes, or like you couldn't compete. They were just like stat buffs. They were just like stat buffs to your character. It
costs
okay,
6,300 IP for either a new champion, like one of the new sets, or a rune page. Now, runes were a set of 33 total runes, I believe. No, wait, it was 13, I think it was 10, 10, 10, or 999. It was 999 and then 3. So it was 30 total runes.
30.
Um,
999. Okay, 30. Yeah, sorry.
Of varying prices, by the way, anywhere between like 90 to like 100 and something per individual rune. And the quintessences, which were the big runes, there was 3 of those, cost I think 1350 a piece. So you're paying for so much IP for these runes. You start with 2 rune pages only, and you can only change your runes outside of a game or outside of a lobby.
Yeah.
Now, this doesn't sound like the biggest problem, but when you're in a game, you need runes for specific champions. There's champions that are tanks, that are bruisers, that are mages, that are physical damage dealers. So you have 2 kinds of runes for magic and physical. You have defensive runes for certain matchups. You don't want to take armor against someone who's doing magic damage. And so it creates this trap where you almost have to have set rune pages for specific lanes or champions. And for the longest time, it's how it was until season 7, I want to say, or 6, when they redid the system. They got away with those, and now you can change them pre-lobby, which is such a good system. But and it's a base stat thing you need at the start of the game. It vastly changed how the game would play out too.
Yeah.
So and we had its faults, but
that was rough at first. And again, we have Russell in chat. He's our resident Dota 2 expert as part of the Myriathon. He's obviously not on the cast today, and again, admittedly, I don't think any of us really know very much about Dota 2. Like
I've played a couple games of Dota 2.
Yeah, I've never played it. I've watched a couple of games of it here and there, but I really know very little about Dota 2.
Yeah. It's
but Russell's saying that all the heroes in Dota are unlocked from the beginning, so that's really nice. Actually, I'll give them that. Again, I don't know. I'm sure they monetize cosmetics and skins and other things.
There's cosmetics and other stuff that goes along with it. I believe. So
yeah, honestly, I would like that better than League system because, like,
skins are paid. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So, yeah, that definitely makes sense. Okay, so I'm gonna actually do a little story real quick.
Story time with
because I think it's really important for this. It is really important. So the Defense of the Ancients game was credited to 3 people, and I'm probably gonna pronounce the names wrong. So Yul, Gunsu, and Ice Frog. Okay, so these 3 people. Okay, and this was 2003. And it's a really interesting story with these 3 because they built this little mod. I won't say little. They built this mod in Warcraft 3. And what ends up happening is I think 2 of them, so Yul and Gunsu, are brought onto Riot Games. And they help build out the Riot Games League of Legends MOBA. Ice Frog gets contacted by Valve. And he goes and joins in 2009, I want to say, Dota 2. Okay? During this time, Blizzard Games, around that time, 2009, 2010, is trying to develop their own game. And it's called Blizzard Dota at the time. So you've got League of Legends on its own thing with these 2. And again, I'm saying Gunsu, but if it's not that, then that's Gwinsu. Thank you. Gwinsu. Thank you.
Sorry.
No. If you've got a better pronunciation and it's correct, then please correct me.
Gwinsu's range player.
Yeah, that's an item in League of Legends.
Yes. Yeah. So those 2 are off on Riot. They're doing their thing, and obviously, we're already talking about it. It's extremely popular. Ice Frog is going there, but Blizzard is trying to keep the Dota name. They're trying to keep this, and they get into a copyright fight with Valve about this. And I won't go through the details. I will just post this very cool little video in here. Yeah, they worked on Dota All Stars. Excuse me. So that was the most popular version, right? So Blizzard's trying to keep this name because it's an important name, obviously, to the game. Like Dota, like when you think Dota, you know exactly what people are talking about. So Blizzard's trying to keep this name. They end up settling, I believe. I don't think it's just like a win-loss thing. I think they just settle And Blizzard ends up having to change their name to Blizzard All Stars, which then changes its name again, and we finally get what is the current iteration of Heroes of the Storm, and it gets near release at like 2014, 2015 time. Okay, that's when like the alpha comes out. But during this whole time, Blizzard's like coming up with this, and they're trying to develop this thing, and they had to change the name multiple times. And I think it's incredibly relevant because League of Legends, Dota 2, obviously there's Smite. I don't want to discount Smite. And Heroes of the Storm are the probably, I would say, some of the most well-named MOBAs right now, particularly for PC. So it's like this story is really interesting to say, okay, you've got the three modders of the popular Dota game, Dota All Stars. They all do their thing, and Blizzard's like fighting for control of the name, and subsequently going to now, Warcraft 3 Reforged had all these rules in place to say, okay, if you're a modder and you create a game in this community, we own whatever you make. I think one of the important reasons why that exists is because Blizzard got into trouble with this thing with Dota. And I don't want to say Here's the Storm like failed because of that in particular. Here's the Storm had tons of other issues. But it's just like this story of like inception to 3 different games, different like paths were all affected by this like one specific game. Like 3 different publishers and developers all had like these branching paths that were all like influenced by this one, and all of them got affected in a different way. Obviously, Riot League of Legends is doing extremely well, and I think Dota 2, I think it's very easy to say it's doing extremely well. But yeah, like HOTS, like Blizzard had to like fight multiple times just to try and keep its own Dota name, and they couldn't keep it, so they then had to change the name multiple times. It's just like for them, it's just like ugh. For Blizzard, they definitely have a lot of headache, I'm sure, from all that. And yes, the game has tons of issues.
The Blizzard got burned really badly on this one.
Did.
Because they, as Dodge said earlier, League of Legends is probably, if not the most popular video game on the planet right now.
Fortnite I think is more popular. Fortnite is more popular.
In terms of worldwide, League of Legends actually does have the lead because of places like Korea and things like that play that more than Fortnite.
Okay, but again, if it's not number 1, it's 2 or 3. Like it's up there. It like consistently has huge Twitch viewership, whether or not like LCS is streaming. When it does, obviously it's more. But yeah, Blizzard just got burned. Like, and I don't know if this is true, but I heard that during the whole Dota thing that like one of the modders or the creators of Dota, like I guess like couldn't work something out with Blizzard. Like he wanted to work for them and like help them make it a household name, but like they wouldn't negotiate with him. They're like, oh, you're a modder. Like they basically wouldn't negotiate with them, and like Blizzard ended up getting totally burned on this. So again, now they have these new rules in place in Warcraft 3 Reforged, where if you make a mod in Warcraft 3 Reforged, like Blizzard, they just own it. They own everything about it. They don't have to credit you. They don't have to pay you. They don't have to do anything. They own it. They own the name. They own everything. Yeah. So yeah,
I think it's a really great story of just like. And I'm not surprised Blizzard was just like, no, we don't want to work with it. And then they get burned, and it's like, okay, so their way of learning their lesson is to just like be less community friendly, which I think is a funny response. Like, okay, your response is to crack down even harder. I don't think that's the right way to do it. I think you should embrace what the community does and reward them more effectively for it, not punish them and crack the whip when they do something creative. But that's like that's a different, conversation. But I think it's like we see all these popular MOBAs, and like for me, like 3 of them in particular all had this like starting point, and they got affected each in different ways. Val, I think Dota 2 and League obviously are much more successful. Heroes, I think Heroes is a good story also for its esports scene. If we talk about esports, League has done such a great job with theirs, and I think Dodge, you can talk about that. I think League's, I mean, like for production value, I think Riot, I think is the staple for production value.
Oh yeah.
So that's like something I think we should talk about too. Is the MOBAs, esports scenes, and how they all work. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but I mean, Dodge, you can talk a bit more about the LCS side, and we can talk about the heroes, how to not forcefully push your esports scene and what happens when you do that.
Scene. Blizzard in general just has an issue with esports, it seems like, where they can't quite figure out how to make it good, I guess is the straightest way to say it. They always tend to overdo things and oversell things, and then they have very knee-jerk reactions to things. And I mean, there's a lot of things to blame in there. I mean, you could blame balance teams and things like that for Overwatch becoming stale. In that, I mean, they're enforcing they've enforced role locks, they've enforced like character restrictions, they've restricted the roles to offense, defense, healer, or whatever, offense, tank, healer now, and it's like you have to have 3 offensive heroes now because we can't balance a tank or a healer. We can only make good balanced offensive heroes, so you have to play 3 of them now because we can't fix this problem. And it's kind of tragic, honestly, with how Overwatch has gone, but that's a whole nother topic. And
yeah, Overwatch
I'm
is
not
a
an expert in
completely
Overwatch, but
separate beast,
Yeah,
to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's possibly a topic for another episode. But
League of Legends is something I know.
yeah, I
of course,
think
of course.
let's dive into maybe talking more specifics about one or more MOBAs at this point, maybe including esports, because I think I don't know, we did the origin part and we've talked about the MOBA craze a little bit, so
Do you want to talk about kind of like our backgrounds with MOBAs?
yeah,
first,
let's do that.
Kind of explain where our knowledge base is coming from.
Let's do that.
Well,
Go ahead.
Dodge, you
Well,
start.
sorry.
You start, Dodge. I think
I'll
Go
talk
ahead.
first, and you guys can talk, and I can talk more about my expertise. We'll
okay.
say, but
okay.
Back in 2013, in season 3 of League of Legends, is when I first played a MOBA. I guess actually I might have tried Dota before then, but very briefly. I did not have a computer that could run Dota or League very well, but I started mid season 3 with League of Legends, 2013, when I was a junior in high school, because some friends of mine convinced me to play, and got hooked on it. And I've been playing ever since, almost daily to a degree. I've taken breaks here and there, but I played relatively consistently and continuously for the last 8 or so years now, 7 years, and I follow the esports scene pretty heavily. I watch a lot of League of Legends. I watch mostly North American League of Legends and Korean League of Legends, actually. I try to catch those at least one series when they're on, because they air relatively late into or early into the morning. Um, but there's also different leagues across the world. But my focus is on League of Legends. I've played a lot of heroes with Otto and Spoon here and some of our other friends, and I consider myself relatively good at that game. But very minimal experience with HOTS, very minimal, or not HOTS, but Dota 2, and very minimal. I played maybe for like a week or two of Smite, but just couldn't really get into it from the hero standpoint. But that's my background with League. I consider myself a pretty big expert on it. I compete in gold, plat, and plat diamond leagues for League of Legends. I do shoutcasting as play-by-play, mostly for various leagues, and yeah, I'm very involved with the scene of League of Legends.
Yep. Spoon, you want to go ahead?
Sure. So I never played the original Dota. I did a few times try to play it, but honestly, the original Dota on Warcraft 3 was like hard to get into. If you weren't a part of the community, they would just kick you out of lobbies. Like they wouldn't it was very gated. It was weird. Like if you were a noob, they would just kick you out. So I never was able to play the original Dota. As I said, I played a Dota adjacent that was called Tides of Blood on Warcraft 3. So I played similar things like back then, but wasn't super into it or anything. And then let's see, I started playing League of Legends in season 2, near the end of season 2. And yeah, I played it a little bit back then. Yeah, it was a little rough back then. And I played for a little bit. I was never like that into it. I never got very high in ranked or anything like that. I'm more of like, I don't know. As far as competitive games go, I'm not a super competitive person, so I don't like get that into it. I don't care about climbing ranked. I play games to have fun. So if I'm not having fun, I'm not gonna play. And League stopped being fun for me, to be honest. So I stopped playing. And I actually really like Heroes has its issues, but I actually really enjoy Heroes of the Storm. It's just much more casual. The games are shorter. I kind of like how the game works. it's a little easier to get into, and I've played that quite a bit with these guys. So yeah. And I've never played Dota 2 or Smite. Yeah.
So
Auto.
yeah, sure. Before I start though, I just wanted to say again, for those of you that are listening in chat for our Twitch, obviously, whether you're new or not, feel free to like ask questions and make comments, because like for me, I'm trying to parse through all of it, and it's important. Like for example, touching on the Dota 2 thing again, Dota 2's prize pools are enormous for the international in particular, because a lot of it's crowdfunded, and I think they've done a really great job with that. They've done an awesome job with crowdfunding and giving the community rewards for doing that. I think it's like you purchase like a box in particular, and some of the stuff items obviously go to you, but like there's part of that transaction goes to the prize pool of the international, which I think is an awesome system in place. So I think like that's a really cool way to deliver value, not just for your professional teams, but also for the players playing. It makes them feel like they're contributing and they're getting something back in return. That's very cool. So
that's something actually Riot just started doing with their own crowdfunding. They're just starting to get into it, and it's ridiculous how much money that can go into that just by like minuscule means too.
Yeah.
Like Riot does it based off just like a skin or the passes or the actual. They do revenue sharing now with the franchise teams, where if you buy like the team icon in the store, the RP equivalent proportion goes directly to the teams and the orgs, which is
great. I mean, that's the right way to approach it. So please keep like making comments and asking questions, because I'm personally trying to like parse through all.
Yeah, we're not trying to ignore people. If you make a comment in chat and we ignore you, it's nothing personal. Seriously, we are obviously having a conversation here, and if we have time to get to your comment, we will, and if we don't, we apologize.
Yeah,
but
it happens.
Yeah.
So for me in particular, I tried League because I think Spoon asked me to try it or something like that with him, and one of the biggest issues I've always had with League, and I think this is something that I could rant on for a while, is sort of talking about the whole gated thing. I've never understood people who will go out of their way to make their game feel gated, and say, okay, well, you're bad, so you should uninstall the game. That's like a really bad mindset when you're a fan of the game, because that's like implying you don't want new people to come in and make the experience even better, because when more people come play your game, the developer responds by giving more value back. So for me, I never got into League because I got the sense that people wanted it to be gated for my playing experience. If you've played like other games, like and you know, if you've played League and you haven't had that experience, that's great. You know, good. I'm very happy that it's been positive. But for me, there are way too many cases of me going into a game, not performing particularly well, and having certain words thrown my way that I won't utter on this stream. So I tried League. The community made it gated for me, and I said, okay, that's fine. I'll go play something else. I really got into. I have played a little bit of Dota 2. I actually don't mind. I don't mind that game at all. I won't say it's complicated. I think it, like with a lot of MOBAs, you kind of have to like know what everybody does and how the things work before you can really make a judgment on if the game is good or not. But so I won't judge and say it's a overly complicated or bad game, because I think you just gotta you gotta parse through and figure out, much like League, you gotta figure out what all the champions do to understand how to play against it and play the game more effectively on a, we'll call it a competitive level. And I played more HOTS because my experiences with HOTS were more positive from the community. People seem to just like want to play with other people. There are a lot of people who, when they're new to MOBAs, play Heroes, actually, in my experience, because it's a really, I don't want to say noob, but like a new player friendly game.
It's more casual. It's a more casual friendly MOBA.
It's easier to get into for sure. And like I really like Heroes. I think Heroes can be a really interesting competitive game. I think even though they've removed the elements of like last hitting and the item shop, and like there's definitely opinions out there that would say that removes the part of the game that makes it, not just versatility, but like makes it adds the interesting complexity that League and Dota have. I don't necessarily feel that way, but I can understand that sentiment. I like HOTS because again, it's very easy to pick up and play. It's a little more straightforward. There's a
Quick.
lot of fighting. There's tons of fighting. And I mean, it's just like I really like the way the game looks too. I love the way the game looks and feels. It's nice to play different maps and different objectives. It feels like different heroes are good on different maps. Whereas with League, there's a pool of champions that are good and always good, and that's what
one map.
Yeah, it's just one map.
One map. Let's be honest. There is a couple maps in League of Legends. There is one map you play on competitively,
Right.
and that is Summoner's Rift.
Exactly. And with HOTS, I've seen bad heroes be good on certain maps so they become playable.
They've
It-
also the
which is
other
cool.
thing with heroes. Sorry, I don't.
No,
Again,
go
don't
ahead.
mean to cut you off. That I like about heroes is like they've been much more. There's a few very unique heroes in Heroes of the Storm, like Abathur and things that like this isn't actually a champion on the map. They just like sit in the back and like control little minions or like put the Abba hat on somebody and like sort of like play the macro game and like Cho'Gall, which is like two people controlling the same hero. He's a terrible hero.
He's
Cho'Gall's
a fantastic
awful.
hero.
I
and
mean,
me and Otto are the best Cho'Gall players in low diamond.
Cho'Gall's
like,
a funny hero. He's
there are a couple of very unique heroes in Heroes of the Storm, and I like applaud them for some very unique concepts on heroes as opposed to like League of Legends. Like they have cool heroes. I'm not saying they don't, but there's nothing.
Cat. Does Heroes have a cat? I don't think so.
No.
Oh yeah,
People love the cat.
Heroes.
In League of Legends.
Heroes has a hero called Lost Vikings, and that's like if you're a StarCraft player and you're pretty good on the micro game, you'll like Lost Vikings on Heroes of the Storm. It's a micro heavy hero. And it's just like the goal of that hero is to be able to micromanage in different lanes to gain the experience that you need. Like that's the kind of stuff that I find interesting. As much as League I think does like they do cool stuff with their heroes. They or their champions. Excuse me, champions. And but like Heroes definitely for me has taken a lot of ambitious. Sometimes it hasn't worked too. They've done some ambitious stuff with their heroes.
Yeah, like you with the game design itself, where it's a team focused game. Like they're all team focused games, right? But Heroes is a game that's focused on the team aspect of it, where you get experience as a whole. Whereas League is a team focused game based on the individuals that make up the team.
Of course.
Where like the difference in your battles and things like that are not based off your entire team, but rather the strengths of individuals.
Right.
Whereas in Heroes, the strength of your individuals leads to your team being ahead. Whereas like that, it's actually your team gains a benefit from one player overextending. Whereas in League, it's one player gets a benefit from them doing better.
Which is where I think some of the toxicity comes from, like in League and like less so in Heroes. Because like in Heroes, for the most part, again, you will find toxic players in Heroes. It happens. I've encountered them, and it's not fun. But for the most part, if you die level 1 in Heroes or you die early in the game or like you miss the first objective, like you haven't lost the game. In League of Legends, you haven't lost the game either if you do that, but there are players with mindsets where if say you're playing bot lane and you die 2v2 level like early in the game, like within the first 5 minutes or something like that, your top laner or your mid laner or your jungler is gonna be like, GG, game over, you died.
Even
like
the player that died might do that. Like
and there's just like they just give up, and it just makes the game not fun for the next 20 minutes that you have to wait before you can forfeit the match. It's like
I think that individual difference thing that makes up a team goal in League of Legends is one of the things that hurts it most in terms of the biggest issue that comes in with League of Legends, I think, would be smurfing, honestly. People being able to make secondary accounts at lower ranks and lower MMRs to just destroy newer players or destroy like weaker players. And it's just that's one of the biggest issues with any MOBA, but especially in League of Legends and their ranked system and now their new clash system. Smurfing is probably the biggest problem in any of these games that it's so hard to, and I can't blame developers or anything. It is so hard to detect. It's very difficult to manage. Like you can't auto ban things. You can't just like, I guess you could like IP like soft ban for certain things, but at the same time, it's like, it just ruins things.
Dodge, why don't you, again, for those uninitiated, why don't you explain what smurfing is real quick?
Like I mentioned quickly, it's where a player who is of a higher rank, like say me in Platinum, were to make a secondary account for the game and then play in a lower ranking skill group, such as like a bronze or silver skill group, something that's much lower than where I am. for reference, like Platinum and League of Legends is around the top 10% of players. Bronze and Silver make up around 70% of the total players,
Right.
and at the lowest 3 ranks. So it's essentially purposely playing with weaker players to make yourself feel better is the TLDR I can give you.
Yeah.
Like it's all self gain. It's no like you're not getting any value out of it. You're not getting any like no one likes Smurf. It's just a fact.
Yeah, but we all do it.
Oh,
Like,
I'll
don't
just tell
do
you.
it in
I'll
League.
just tell you. I do Smurf on HOTS. I
Yeah,
Smurf
I'll
specifically.
ruin people's days.
I Smurf specifically to play with some of the other people.
Yes.
Heroes has the thing where if you're diamond, for example, you can't play with anybody below or like gold or below or something. So if
I
I
think
want
it's
to,
you can play 2 ranks, not
It's two
below
tiers,
2.
yeah.
Okay.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
So you
But
could
diamond
play with
first
gold,
start getting more
Okay,
but
so you can
not
play with gold.
silver.
Yeah. But if like we had a couple people that we know who were in silver, such, and so I had a diamond account, so I couldn't play with them. So
Yeah.
I went down and made an account that got to silver, and now I just I play with the people on that.
Yeah, and like that's one of the nice ways to do it, right? Where you're just trying to play with friends. But there is toxic ways of doing it where you're going into solo queues where you're
Right.
playing by
Yeah.
yourself, not with your friends, just to
Oh
bump
yeah, I
some
mean like going
newer
into
player.
solo queue and like there have been games where I just don't feel good about being the
And
bully. I
and
don't
the
feel good
worst
about it.
people are the ones that will be toxic towards your opponents or your teammates for playing poorly compared to you
Yeah.
or your
Yeah.
skill level. And it's like, well, naturally, yes, they are going to be worse than you. They are a fresh account who just started playing the game, and you're a person who's been playing for 6 years. Why are you flaming them? Like, you're
And
just hurting your own community base.
And even back when I played League, and this is like when Otto, I wasn't intentionally smurfing. I was playing on my main account, but I was playing with Otto, who had like just started playing League of Legends, so he was,
Yeah.
level 1 or something. And I was playing with other people who were like somewhere in the middle, but they weren't max level like
Mhm.
players. And I had a couple of games where I just decimated them because again I was max
Oh,
level and I had been playing for a while, and this was likely like a group of very new players. And I mean, I'll be honest, it felt pretty good to dominate that hard, but at the same time, it's like I'm
yeah.
sure the other team wasn't having very much fun.
Right.
So yeah,
If you're like okay, so like I said, if you like with the smurfing, first of all, like I said with the smurfing, like for me, you're inherently not making yourself a better player by doing it. So you can smurf if
no,
you want, but you're not getting better doing it. So, and I'm fully aware of that as somebody who's there. Like when I play those games, I don't get better for sure. But there's something I want to do another game. I found another game we should play, and other people can play this.
Was it Dota 2?
Vehemently disagree with the smurfing take. Amazing Vector. I mean, if you, like I said, if you look, I
Which
do have the
take, though, is
smurf.
the question, mine
yeah.
or his?
Which part of it? We can
Yeah,
talk
if it's
about
mine, like I said,
Sure.
you're totally allowed to disagree with me. That's
Yeah,
fine.
give us your
You're
take,
totally
but
allowed to. I think if you're allowed, if you disagree with me, that's fine. I totally understand. But for
And
me
there's
with
different
HOTS,
degrees
that
to
was the
it,
only
though,
way I
too,
could
right?
play with him is to like get this new account.
And there's different degrees to it too. Like if you're a diamond player playing with your silver friend, that's a large shield gap. But if you're just
Yeah,
like a diamond player playing on your platinum account, actually trying to improve because your MMR is screwy, that's different as
that
well.
it's bad for the
Um,
community.
I think it's very bad for a community in a sense of just in a sense of encouraging new players,
it depends.
and it
If you
depends on
have
the
if
scale
you
and like
if
how
you
you're
have
acting about it.
if you have a good player, in my opinion, again, this is all our opinion, but if you have a good player who is smurfing in order
Mhm.
to like help out like lower rank players and be like, hey, I'm if they're gonna maybe they don't say they're smart, be like, hey, I'm maybe a little better than you at the game. Let me help you and explain things like what you're doing wrong and help you. Because okay, there's this thing that people say, like people talk about elo hell when they're in yeah, I agree completely, Vector. Like is there is something that it comes to on your mentality, and this is what I'm talking about with elo hell. Like if you're in bronze or silver, people say like, oh, I can't get out of bronze and silver because my teammates are bad. And it's like, well, there's a reason you're in bronze and silver. You have to like sometimes you lose games because your teammates are bad. Like it does happen, and I'm not going to say it doesn't, but you have to say on yourself, what could I have done better to help us win this game?
Mm.
What did I do wrong? What mistakes did I make? And there are a lot of people in these low ranks that I feel that just will never take responsibility
Yeah.
for losing the game on themselves. Like
Yep.
even if they play bad, like they won't take responsibility on it, and that's where I think mentality comes into
Yeah,
it.
I think
Into it.
there's a benefit to wanting to better yourself as a player and playing against better players, but again, that skill gap thing I think is the biggest issue that comes into play for the most part. And Otto, did you have a point to make as well?
No. Go ahead. I'm gonna read the most
Okay.
recent comment just so I can get
But
it.
for me, and what you mentioned, Sue, and just touching on that point, I
Okay.
don't want to go on too much of a tangent for that, but the biggest rule I hear is it's a 40-40-20 rule in most competitive games. And what that rule explains is 40% of the games you will win, 40% of the games you will lose. That is just a fact. Based off your skill level and how you're going to climb, the natural progression with your teammates that you're going to get, teammates that are going to be on the other team, the Smurfs and things like that. It's a 40-40-20. You're going to win 40, you're going to lose 40, and then 20% of the games you can actually influence the outcome for. And those are the 20% you need to win in order to climb your skill ranking and get better at a game,
Mm.
right? And that's the rule I just like to live by when I play games, just to try to like de-tilt myself.
Mm.
Like today, where I lost 4 consecutive league games in a row after hitting promos, and that's a tilter.
Yeah.
But so I went from 100 LP to 37 LP today in 4 games, and it's like, well, I'm gonna take a break
Yeah.
because this must have been at least some of those games I could have won, but definitely some of them were games that were far gone and not winnable.
So my comment is like I actually agree to a certain extent. Obviously, I want to say certain extent. Um, if you're the type of person that is smurfing, but is doing it in such a way where you're bringing a coaching mentality. So, for example, um, there was a game in HOTS in particular. I'm using HOTS because that's the game I play most, so you have to forgive for people listening and watching. Um, there's a game of HOTS where I played with a person who was in a pretty, I think he was like bronze 1 or something, or silver 5. And I was playing on the Smurf because you had to do placements. And so I was like, I was a hero where you would have like global movement. So you could move across the map really easily. And after the game, we had like played really well. He had sent me a comment basically saying, hey, are you smurfing? If so, I thought you were really good at this, and this. Like it was really interesting to see how like right after fights or doing this, you would immediately go and use that global movement to do this. And so that's like a good example of this where you've got people who are willing to, we'll say Smurf, willing to communicate with those people who are trying to improve and say, okay, you're a low level player. I'm not being toxic when I say that, but here's some things you can do to get better. Here's some things that I'm doing that you might be able to, like, I don't want to say steal, but observe and learn from and figure out, okay, what are some small tidbits of things that you're doing that I want to improve on. The other thing I think is like, I don't want to say smurfing is a part of this, but like another great way to improve if you're a lower ranked player isn't just observing Smurfs. It's to just like watch good people play. You'll pick up information. So I think that's important. But like there are examples of like smurfing that can be detrimental. I think if you're smurfing and just being a complete jerk to other people, then you're making the assumption that everybody around you has the mental fortitude to like go into their next game and just like completely forget that and say, okay, well, you were just a complete toxic person, whatever. Like there's a difference between like getting stomped and just like learning from it, and then there's getting stomped and having somebody be toxic to you after the fact and like not just take you out of your game, but just like go out of their way to be just a horrible person. I think like that's negative smurfing as a whole. You shouldn't be doing that anyway. But if you're smurfing and doing that, maybe you should not, either smurf and just don't talk, or just like don't smurf. Because if you're gonna have that kind of attitude, you're certainly not doing favors to the other people that are trying to learn from you. They're not gonna think you're a good person to learn from. They're just gonna think you're for lack of better terms, an a-hole. That's bad smurfing. that's just toxic attitude. I would say like yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, flaming's a different topic, but
we're assuming at this point that the Smurf isn't like flaming and telling his
right.
team they're
Yeah.
And
bad
if they
or
are,
stuff
like
like
it's just
that.
like you're
Because
smurfing and flaming.
that's just automatically a bad.
Yeah.
If they're flaming, you're just a bad
And
player.
I agree,
I've
though.
seen that by the
Like-
way, and it's just like, why are you flaming? You're smurfing and flaming? Like, come on.
But I see the validity of Vector's point though, where there is value in watching a better player play the game. You can learn macro decisions and micro mechanics, right?
Right.
Micro being things that you physically input, things that you do. You know,
Sure.
I pressed QWE in this order at this timing. That's the micro. Macro being, rotations around the map and where I should be on the map and what I should be doing, right? Just as a brief. I'm sure most of us know this, but just for people that do not, that's a quick synopsis of micro versus macro when I use this. But you can pick up micro and macro things from watching higher level play. But when you're experiencing it against it, whether or not like going back and VOD reviewing is one thing and watching a stream is another. But
Sure.
playing against it, if you're just playing at someone who's just better than you on a micro level, it doesn't feel good to play against that, right? If someone's just physically better than you to a massive degree, there's not too much you can learn. I think it needs to be incremental to a degree
Sure.
of how much you learn. Like, you're not going to go from bronze to diamond by getting smashed by a grandmaster player, right? Like, getting absolutely decimated doesn't teach you anything, but it can teach you, how to, come back in lanes, things like that. But you need help, right? You can't just do it on your own to a degree. And in these
Yeah.
games, you can get snowballed on very hard. And if you die once, you can come back from that. But once you die the third, fourth, fifth time, you're not learning anything. You're just getting
Yeah.
killed over and over again, and
You're
they're just
tilted, and
killing
you're
you for
tilted. You're
sport, right?
probably tilted too.
Yeah,
So.
and your mentality is probably a bit shattered at that point too. So like there is knowledge to be gained from quote unquote smurfing, but I don't think it's constructive against you. I think it's constructive if you are playing alongside, say, a smurf who can teach you things about the game, right? Like if I'm playing alongside my friend who is a bronze or silver player on my silver or gold account, that can help. I can help them while playing the game. If they ask me, "Hey, where should I be right now on the map? What should I be doing? Like what's the next thing we want to do here?" Right? But if they're just playing against someone who is way higher skilled than them, I don't think they're learning anything as much as they're saying, "Wow, this guy's everywhere. He just keeps killing me. I'm just getting destroyed. This isn't fun. This guy's a smurf. It's pointless." Like I feel like the mentality is a lot different depending on what side of the team the Smurfs on, right? And like there is replays, like you mentioned,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
VOD reviewing, but that's a whole nother level of trying to improve
Right.
than just
Which-
playing the game by yourself.
That's also
yeah.
assuming that like the person is trying to like if you're playing ranked, you're probably trying to improve.
Yeah, if you're ranked, we're assuming you're ranked right now.
Again, for me when I play again, I'm not a super competitive person, so like I don't care about climbing rank, and like when I play MOBAs, I'm playing to have fun, and if I get smashed, I'm probably not having fun. Like,
Well,
so I don't know. Like,
There's also wondering what you're trying to improve on, right? Like you have to a degree, you have to know what went wrong
yeah,
and how to fix it, right?
sure.
If you look at a play and you just get solo killed, you could look at a couple things. You could look at, if was it their positioning in the lane,
yeah,
but do you
did
understand
they
how
juke?
you should position in this
Yeah,
lane?
yeah,
Is it a rune choice thing? Is it an itemization thing? Is it like to a degree, like depending on your skill level, you might not be able to assess what went wrong to a
Right.
degree, if that makes sense.
So
And obviously this is a lot. It's there's so many variables, like the person trying to get better, the resources they have available, the people they have available to help them. It all varies, right? And
yeah,
I think YouTube is definitely a trap for some players where it's like top 5 tips to climb and get better
yeah.
at League of Legends, and it's
I
like farm better, don't die. It's like, yeah, obviously, but
in my experience in like watching videos of like those kinds of videos basically and trying to get better at competitive games, all that knowledge goes out the window when you're playing, and it's just
very
like
surface level, right?
yeah, it's and it's just like when you're in the moment playing, like it's very hard to recall that kind of knowledge. You kind of have to just get in practice and like get good, and like once you understand the game and are finally like yeah, I kind of agree that like those YouTube videos and stuff aren't that
I think
helpful.
like
I don't know.
I know we were talking about smurfing, but I think actually a good segue is let's just talk about self improvement for a little bit in regard to
Mhm.
Just like general play. I mean, like Dodge, you've ranked obviously in League, and like Spoon, you have
Yes.
played ranked a little bit.
I ranked
In these games,
one or two games, right?
Yeah, one or two games, And I
Okay.
played a lot of ranked of Heroes early on. Heroes is like, I don't want to talk about like, oh, Heroes is easier than League, so like blah blah blah. Let's not talk about that. That's just like that doesn't make any sense. Let's just talk a bit about like specifically, you know, we touched upon like, okay, if you're playing with a Smurf, you can improve. And we've also talked about YouTube, which is like, in my opinion, like some people, if you don't think it's a good resource, that's fine. That's totally up to you. If you can't find anything that's good, great. I mean, you don't have to watch it. That's the best thing about YouTube. It's free and it's your choice. But for me, I've watched some YouTube stuff. Some of it can be helpful if you find the right people, and
Yes.
you find the
That's
stuff
most important
that
thing.
you find the right content for you. Watching streamers that are, or like people who are really good, is also helpful. Like we've done VOD review. Like we sometimes do it as a joke, just to like poke fun at ourselves too.
I know
But
the game. Oh my god.
but like I've VOD reviewed myself with other
The
people.
VOD reviews.
I've VOD reviewed other people with them. Like people have asked me to do it, and I was diamond in Heroes when I was trying, and that's
You were like
it was
low
pretty
master.
good.
Right?
It was pretty
in Team
good.
League? In Team League, you got low masters at one time.
In Team League I was masters, yeah. So
Yeah, you hit master, so you were
and
okay.
I don't know if, like I said,
It's okay.
Your opinion is your own, and you can keep it. I'm totally fine with that, Vector, and I don't want to disregard what anybody says. I think like information as a whole is important. If you find something on YouTube that you find is valuable, use it for as long as it remains valuable. Because some things will become, we'll call it outdated at some point in time for your own like benefit. But that's just like, again, it's up to you. For me, like watching streamers like Grubby, for example, for HOTS was really beneficial. Playing obviously was, and watching VODs is beneficial. Actually, there was a point in HOTS where if you went to the what's it called, the beta test server or whatever, what do you call it? Public beta
Oh, the
realm?
PBE.
PBE,
Yeah,
PBE, thank you.
the PBE.
PBE, yeah, PBE, PBR, whatever it is. Actually, what would end up happening? PB, thank you, Try. You would actually get matched up with like semi-pro players. So I played it a couple times, and I would get matched up with semi-pros. And I'll just tell you, there's a lot to learn from that. It was like a eye-opening experience to have a bunch of semi-pros. They get in their group. PTR, there we go. PTR also.
I think it's PBE for Blizzard.
It's PBE for Blizzard, PTR for League, I think.
PTR for Blizzard, actually.
It's PTR for Blizzard. Okay, thank you.
Do we have it the other? Oh, we have the other.
We have the other way around.
Okay. Well, it's one.
Blizzard,
yeah.
I'm so. This is why I need people to correct me.
Yeah.
But yeah, the PTR was just like, you would play against semi-pros, and it was tough. Like, it was really tough. If you're not necessarily at that level and you're playing against people like that, you're just like, there are games where you just like, you just feel bad sometimes because you're like, man, I'm powerless right now. But it also was good, because I want to bring this full circle and say, yes, it can be good to play against those players who are at that level, semi-pro level, like, big streamers and stuff like that, basically. And I would watch myself play against them. It was interesting, and they would like do certain things that you wouldn't think of. They would like do this extra level of thought. Sometimes they would mess around with you, obviously, but there are other times where like they wouldn't, like in Heroes, they wouldn't even lane. They would just like 5-man roam and just like absolutely destroy you, because they just like would do certain things that you wouldn't even think of. So,
and then to follow up on this, Otto, I'd ask you, since you are similar to me, where like you've grinded games a little bit to get a certain rank, right?
Sure, yeah.
You aren't just innately like top tier, but I would ask, what did you do to get better at games? I guess the question it becomes to, like, how did you improve yourself at the game? Was it just through grinding the game a lot? Was it through doing some of this reviewing stuff? Like, what helped you to improve personally?
For me,
I have a couple things I did.
Yeah, for me, I don't think it's the same for everybody. I think like, yeah, I mean, like, I don't want to discount it. It is, I don't want to say it's necessarily like, oh, it's super fun, yay! But it's like, it's illuminating to see that, and to get like, see somebody do a strategy you just like wouldn't even conceptually like implement yourself. So like that's the kind of stuff you do, is you play quite a bit, you study the you eventually get to a point where you start to study the different heroes you play against, and you watch other people play. You'll like VOD review yourself. I didn't always VOD review myself, alone. I would have other people. You VOD review other people, because if you can teach somebody how to do something, your expertise of that will grow even more. I think like
Yeah,
teaching other people is actually a great way to learn yourself,
Mhm.
because that way you
that
can explain it.
they say that with like
Everything.
With
it's like
everything.
like studying if you're taking like classes or whatever. Like if you can like get together with a group and like try to teach somebody else like what you're learning right now, and that's
Right.
when you know like you know it well, and that like if you can teach it to somebody, like you're learning yourself and you know it well.
Right.
You can also find gaps in your knowledge if you're like trying to teach somebody something. You're like, I don't quite remember like this little detail here or
Sure.
whatever. Like,
If you're open-minded with yourself and with new ideas, you'll also improve. Um, like it's just like being able to be positive, being a willing like student of the game is important. Um, I don't think the right mentality is to just like completely rage when you perform poorly. When you perform poorly, like it's I hate to say this is like I don't think it's just a game is the right way to say it, but like really
yeah,
when you play ranked and lose a game, guess what? You're still alive and okay, and you can still like go and do other things and like if you're losing a lot in a row, take a step away, go take a
Hey, you can go
walk or
outside. Well,
something.
not right now, but like
I
It's just
I
like
like what like it, and this isn't ranked. This is like playing casual, in which case it makes it even sillier. Like whenever we're playing heroes and like I get flamed, or like any of us get flamed, or like and someone on our team gets mad if we're not playing a 5-man and we're playing with a couple randoms, and someone gets mad. Like my first comment is always like, "It's just a game, bro. It doesn't matter. If we lose, we lose.
it's
It's fine. Move on with your life."
it's and
Like,
like it's not necessarily like I don't necessarily say I like took that specific mentality into ranked, but like just like be okay with losing a
yeah,
game and going back and learning from it and doing something different next time. It was just
yeah,
like all that stuff put together and just like being willing to adapt yourself to the strategies of the game. Like I would always read the patch notes when I was grinding. Like
hmm
every patch notes I would read and say, okay, what changed? There's just like a lot of different stuff that I did, and I didn't discount anything. It's just
I think the biggest way to improve at any given game, and I think this can be applied through fighting games, through different genres, through whatever you want to improve at. I think it starts from your knowledge base, right? How much you know about the game. Like you mentioned, being a student of the game is a big thing, but actually looking at the game and saying, do I know what happens, right? Like in League of Legends, we mentioned there's 148 champions, and I could tell you if you put a champion in front of me, I could tell you exactly what every single one of their abilities does, how it interacts, what
right.
they're going to look to do in fights, like how that character possibly wants to play the lane, right? Like for
Yeah.
me, I'm a marksman or AD carry player. I could tell you what every single bot lane champion does, what the matchup knowledge is between these. How does this lane interact with the support matchups? How is my support's differential going to change how I want to play the lane? Okay, my support's not as good. I can tell just by how they're positioning in the lane behind me that they don't know how to play this lane, right?
Right.
There's things that you can pick up just by knowing the game. And I was
Absolutely.
talking to this earlier, actually today, in one of my league discords. We were talking about how Sneaky, who's a popular former League of Legends pro, now streamer,
Yeah.
had a lane where his support roamed out of the lane, and from that one thing that happened in this challenger master level game, because that support left, put him in a bad spot. He ends up going down levels, creep score, items, experience, all these things that compound from just that one mistake.
Right.
And if you don't know what that was, you just think, oh, he just sucks at laning. He's down 50 CS and he hasn't even died yet. Like he just sucks, right? But that's what I'm saying. Like, I think your base knowledge is the biggest thing for improvement.
Mm.
And then from there, that's where you can look at things like VOD review,
Right.
things like assessing your own gameplay after that point and like improving your micro skill, going to practice tool and practice creep scoring without runes and masteries.
yeah.
That's something I used to do just to get a base level. But I think knowledge is number one for sure. And being a student of the game. I love that phrase. It's terrible, but I love it.
It,
I
Because
mean,
that's what I am too.
VOD review is not going like if you look at a VOD and like you don't know exactly
What you're looking for.
what you're looking. Yeah, exactly. If you VOD review and like playing badly or dying, or as you did the sneaky anecdote, it's like if you don't know what you're looking for and you don't know how the game works or like how the interactions go, then your host from Square, like VOD review is not going to help you if you don't understand what's going on or like
And you
what
can learn
mistake.
mechanics
Right.
from professionals, right? You can learn how to combo your abilities together by watching pros or like, how they flank in fights for
Right.
Overwatch, um, or how they, when they time their abilities, what they're looking for. You can learn that from watching the best players,
Right.
but doing it yourself is a whole nother story and applying that information. Like, I mean, I had a long grind in League of Legends. I have been in the pits of bronze and all the way up to my peak a couple years ago when I peaked at just above plat. We'll say I can't confirm anything because that might get me kicked out of. But I might or might not have been at a higher rank than platinum. But nevertheless, like every league I've been finishing platinum the last couple of years, so I've relatively stagnated and been looking to improve myself. And that's where most of my work comes in to VOD reviewing during my league games when I'm playing competitive, because I think that's a much better way to look at the game than in isolation in my solo
Sure.
queue games personally, because you're playing 5v5, which there is differences in that and there is things like that. But assessing how I'm laning and what decision making I'm having to improve as an individual can help not only me but my team in performance, and also just helps me improve in general, right?
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother issue because I'm playing off role and things like that. But um where I really should be VOD reviewing my solo queue games because that's where I play.
Yeah.
But yeah, student of the game I think is the biggest thing. Like just building a knowledge base for the game raised my level probably from my bronze to like my gold tier, and
Mm.
then just getting physically better at the game over time
Yeah.
is what bumps that up further, right?
Of
Because there's
course.
only so much you can know about a game. I know people who know a ton about the game and still are absolutely atrocious at it, right?
Right. So,
But yeah,
before,
kind
like,
of
I
a
don't
rant.
want to
Sorry.
necessarily like segue a topic away right now because I think this is a good general like conversation for people, especially if you play a MOBA, you'll like understand these things. But like, here's another good example about, like, okay, how do you improve or just like, I don't want to call it like the next level thought process, but there's like a point where you'll hit this. Everybody in their gameplay and in I think in anything you try and learn as a discipline, you'll get to this point and you'll feel like you hit a. Everybody talks about a roadblock. We'll call it a
That's me
wall, a
right
brick
now.
wall. You're like, oh, I hit a brick wall. Um, some people when they hit that brick wall, they like do different things. They like try and slam through it and like break it down, or maybe they find like some creative way to get around it. I mean, like whatever your choice is to do it, you like be willing to adapt. And so for me, like I can tell you exactly when in Cursed Hollow for Heroes of the Storm, I can tell you when the curse will come up, the first objective comes up, and I can tell you exactly when or why you should take which camp. And the reason why those things are valuable is, let's give an example. I've got a big map, okay? And in Heroes of the Storm, you've got different mercenary camps that you can take. There's one up here, there's one in the middle, and then there's a boss down here, okay? So there's these three different camps. Boss obviously is a tough camp to take. Let's say the objective spawns up here. Now, when you've got a camp up here, if you take this camp with the objective here, well, everybody's already fighting up here. So this camp will be null. It just won't do anything. So for whatever reason, there's like this difference of player skill. I don't want to call it skill, but like there's definitely a difference of player understanding when they say, okay, well, the objective is here. Let's take this camp. I don't usually tell people this in the game, but like that's not the right play to take that camp right away. It gets you experience, sure, but it doesn't actually do anything for you because you're already fighting up there. So now let's change that scenario. What happens if the objective is down here? Now what changes? Well, what ends up happening is the camp that you take up here, now the other team has to make a decision. So this is just like the difference in like where things are happening on the map, and then what that means for your tactics in game. I mean, it's just like that's the kind of stuff that if you were to ping 90% of players, I could probably tell you that, or excuse me, if you could ping every HOTS player, I would say 90% of them would just not understand that. And that's not because they're bad players. It's just because they're not studying certain things and they're not taking into account that like poker aspect of, okay,
Yep.
well, I'm not playing my hand. I want to play what their hand is going to be. So I'm going to make them have this forced decision. Do they want to deal with the camp up here, which they may not be able to deal with right away? or are they going to have to like completely focus on this objective and lose their siege up top? I mean, like that's the kind of stuff that is the difference for people. It's not always just micro skill. It's just like how much are you playing the other person's hand compared to your own? And like
I've definitely noticed in, I don't know so much in League, but in Heroes, and I've watched or played in some lower ranked games, and I'm not like I didn't really play ranked, but like yeah, I think my MMR was like somewhere in gold or maybe low plat. I don't know, when I actually played, but um, in lower ranks, they just don't seem to understand the macro game at all. Like you're talking about, like with the camps, and it's just like it's this constant 5v5. It's just like a 5v5 fight, like the whole time. And what I like to call the conga line, where like one of your teammates goes in and like dies, or a couple of your teammates goes in and dies, and the other two or three follow.
Yeah,
it's
just
like
keep going.
Your two teammates just died over there. Just let them die. It's fine. Don't go die yourself. And like that is one of like the most classic like low rank mistakes I notice in MOBAs. I call it the conga line. It's just like one at a time. We march into the enemy jungle and die one at a time, and it's like, all right, you're not helping. Like just let the first person die and move on with your life. They made a mistake. Don't compound the mistake by dying.
Yep, and that's the game knowledge thing, right? Where it's like I was talking about, like I mentioned I play on league teams, whereas like my role on my team, like despite being an off-role player and everything, I'm playing in my tertiary role right now in the team I play for, funny enough. But like I'm still doing a lot of the draft work for our team comps, right?
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of the macro decision making in our mid and late games. I make some of the most important calls in the games fall on me to make, right? Like we just killed 2 people in the jungle. I don't think they have vision right now. Or hey, they just took this objective. They're going to look to reset, and they haven't been on the top side of the map for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's start up this big objective. Just start it up like randomly out of like 22 minutes. We haven't swept it. We don't have pink wards. Let's just do this call, right?
Right.
And oftentimes that tends to work out. Like I've noticed, I've gotten a lot better at finding like these snap decision makings that can win you hard games. Like, and I've done it, I think in Heroes once or twice too, where I can assess a situation and just look at it and go, we can do this here, and this will win us the game or get us a big advantage.
Yeah.
Like they're doing this. Let's just go to our boss. Let's just go to the Baron.
Yeah.
Right.
I've definitely played.
They come and we back off.
I've definitely played with you games in Heroes where you made calls like that, where like the rest of us weren't sure it was a good idea, but you're like, let's just do boss right now. And I'm like, what? Why would we do that? And you're like, well, they're, we haven't seen them in forever. You're like, oh, they're on that camp. They're doing that camp right there. I'll tell you 100%. They're doing that camp right there.
We see 2 people there. That guy we called in the lane. Let's just start it up and see what happens.
What it comes down to, I think, is Dodge is 100% correct. And this is something that, again, if you talk to 100% of players in these MOBAs, I would say 90% of them would probably not do this. Maybe it's probably a lower percentage, to be honest. The map is your best friend. I can tell you right now, I think I look at the map more than the actual things that are happening on the screen. I just like stare at the map. In Heroes, it's at the bottom right-hand corner where my hand is right now. In League, I think it's the same place. So
you can set it to either.
You can
set it to either. Okay, great.
You can move it.
Cool. But still, like the point is, like that actually is your best friend. That, like, I don't know what it is, but a lot of people, and I'm not saying if you're low rank you don't do this, but like a lot of people I watch who are like bronze, silver, when I ask them, how often are you looking at the map? They're like, oh, not very often at all. It's like, you should be looking at it all the time. That's like, I always look at it
constantly.
I always am looking at it.
I think LS, who's like a popular League of Legends streamer, he was a coach in Korean teams. He's an English caster for Korea. And he does very high level analysis for things, but he overly rambunctious with this because he's a former StarCraft player, uses his F keys, which are something that I barely touch in League of Legends, but they are some of the most useful keys in the entire game for information, because what they do is F1 through 5 locks onto you, followed by your top, like, next champion down for the 5 champions that you picked in order, and it just locks onto them on their screen. And there's so much information you can get just by flicking, okay, F3, okay, back to me, right? What did I see? I saw their laner's gone, their wave is pushing in, so they either reset or they're roaming right now, and our mid's about to have priority. So I, as the jungler, can go look to invade here, right?
Yeah.
That definitely sounds like it comes from an RTS background where they're used to like looking around the map everywhere, and you're like, because you set a bunch of control groups in RTS, and like, all right, I'm gonna go to this group over here, and then that group, and then like you're my workers, and etc.
Who doesn't do that? like I still look at the mini map and look at the map and say, okay, where's their champion? Okay, I see their jungler on top camp. I can look to take this trade bot lane, right? And I will tell my support that, or I'll tell my team that if we're in a team 5v5. The biggest thing about League of Legends is tracking the jungler early game, because that's the one guy that's going from a random spot in the map and can show up in your lane to come gank you, right? That's the one person you really need to keep an eye on. Like, besides your lane opponent, who you're constantly seeing anyways, you need to know where that jungler is to know what you can do with that information,
Right.
right? If you have wards in their jungle and you have their red side jungle, the top side of the map looks like a Christmas tree and it's like fully lit up, and you're like, I can see everything. All their camps are up, but I don't see them. There's only a couple spots they can be on the map, either in the rivers or on the bot side of the map or in base. Like, there's 3 options. So if you're on the bot side and you see the red side's ward and they're not there and all the camps are gone, they're probably going to be bot side now. And it's like, using your map is the most important thing in these games. Like, that's where like Overwatch and fighting games are different, because they don't have a mini map, right? The information you get is from information you are actively seeing. You can see the crossfire, you can see setups, but Overwatch doesn't have a direct map you're using. Fighting games are, the person's right in front of you the whole time. They're right there. They're not hiding. They can camp, they can move around the screen, but they're on that screen. So that's a whole different aspect of, the knowledge base is coming in, where you need to know what they're looking for, what they're trying to do. Like, in my brief experience in Smash Brothers, and I am atrocious at this game, but I have competed competitively at Smash Brothers at a S tier tournament now, and playing as top players, like, you really have to think constantly in those games. There's no break, because you have to assess what they're trying to do, how they're trying to do it. What does your character do that their character loses to? Is there anything? Like, how do you find a way in? How do you ledge trap? And there's, in other fighting games like Street Fighter, and hitting off of walls and those transitions and things like that, and combos and intense inputs. Like, there's a lot more mechanics in those games, but is that better mechanics than League of Legends, or is that like just different forms of mechanics than League of Legends?
Yeah.
I know great Smash players in my state, in Michigan, who are very good at Smash, not very good at League of Legends. So
It's very
it's so
different.
hard to compare genres, but when it comes down to it, knowledge still is the king, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of got sidetracked and like went full
No,
circle.
no, no. I mean,
on
it's
me, but
everything. It
the
all,
main
it
point
all comes together.
for MOBAs, look at your maps. That's the
Yeah.
TLDR.
They're
We're getting
like,
off topic
it
with
really
games,
is. Yeah.
but
So, let me just ask: do we want to continue this line of conversation? The only other stuff I was going to talk about, I would say on here, is a bit about the esports side.
Yeah, I think
if that's an interesting
touch
point.
let's
Okay.
touch on
we can take a
esports
break and
for
talk about this.
Okay,
for
sure,
a bit
sure.
before we wrap.
Yeah.
And we're not gonna. I mean, but like 30 more minutes or
Okay,
so.
sure. So, just to sort of segue quickly into the esports side, I think like I do want to talk about, with all of us here, maybe the positive aspects of it, and then I want to talk about HOTS. I think HOTS by itself is an amazing case study. So let's just talk about all the good stuff, and then like Spoon, you watched some of the HTC stuff with HOTS, right? Can I?
Yeah,
actually, you did.
I like back when HOTS was bigger. I liked watching Grubby a lot, like during the day, just like casually, and I liked watching the competitive Heroes of the Storm as well.
All of
and
us,
like I watch LCS as well, and I still watch
yeah.
LCS for League.
I was gonna say all of us watch LCS. We all have different, fan. I'm sure Dodge is a CLG fan, for example. I used to just like following TSM, but now I just like, I don't know. I kind of like EG too. I have some like, I'm not trying to flex, but I used to know their CEO, the previous CEO. So like I just like EG because he's a nice guy. But let's just talk about a bit of the positives of the esports side with obviously League, but I think Dota 2 we can talk a bit about the the international. And I'm trying to think if there's any others in the MOBA side, because I think I want to save HOTS for later.
I think Smite exists, but I just don't.
Smite
know
does we just don't
it.
know.
It has
it's
a
like
community,
a competitive scene.
Yeah. Again,
like
I've never played it. I don't really know anything about it, so we probably won't touch on it other than saying that it exists.
Yeah, I'm sure Smite is a vibrant community. I'm not going to discount it at all, but we don't know anything about it. So sorry. So
when is our group migrating to Smite when HOTS eventually gets kicked to the curb by Blizzard?
I know some
Let's
people.
go. Let's get in there.
I know some people
third
like
person smites.
some people. I don't know anything about it.
No
Hots
Pablo
is
main.
Hots is very safely on life support right now, and it's gonna stay there for a long. Hots is like in a coma, and they're just gonna keep it alive for as
Sure.
long as they
Oh,
can.
absolutely. I mean, like I said,
Hots is
like I
Hots
said,
is like grandma doesn't want to pull the plug on grandpa yet, so he's just gonna stay in that hospital bed for a couple weeks.
yeah,
All right,
it's
dude.
bad. So actually, you know what? Let's start with Hots. We're on Hots.
Yeah.
We're starting with Hots.
Let's
Hots.
talk about the tragedy that is their competitive
So
scene.
Hots really dove into competitive. Like I don't think we should discount. Like Blizzard tried. They put a lot of money into it. They put millions of dollars into the competitive scene of Hots. Like their first tournament was I think it was $1 million prize pool. And this happened 2016 or something. And or maybe it was 2017. But like they started with $1 million prize pool. And at the time, at least for me, like the game was still like really coming together. They had released it in I think like the official release was 2017. Like they officially released the game and immediately threw $1 million prize pool into it. It was crazy. I threw the HOTS thing in the YouTube link in there. I'm gonna throw it in there again. This is like such a great video. It puts it all together. So that's what I'm referencing when I say these things. They just they really did invest, but the question is, which I think we can all discuss here, does lots of money mean anything when you have like a scene that really didn't have much of a foundation beyond like it just had released? That's like it's a great video, but they did try. They really did try to put money into this thing.
Yeah.
Yes and no.
Go ahead, Dash.
I was just say it does matter, but it also doesn't matter if the base isn't there, right?
Mm.
Like you can do things right and you can do things wrong. It just depends on how. It depends on a lot of factors. There's the community. How big is your community? How active is your competitive scene? How watchable is your game is
Mm.
another issue, right?
Yeah.
That was a big issue with Overwatch to begin with, and still currently is. It's not really good to watch as a spectator sport.
It's
right?
really hard. It's really
It's
hard to
hard to
follow.
understand.
It's hard
It's
to
hard to see what's
follow.
going on because it's very quick. It's very fast. Like CS:GO is a fantastic spectator esport because you can see what's going on. They're holding this corner. You see that guy peek around. He shoots him. Right? It's straightforward. The camera doesn't like quick flash around all the time, following different things, and like there's not a lot of movement because characters can only move so fast in that game.
Right.
And League of Legends, it's a little bit harder to follow once you get into team fights, but you can understand, these are the characters. Okay, they're hitting that thing to a degree, and I think Heroes was a little bit on the side of more so the player base is the issue, right? And the saturation of competitive leagues because they were so late to get on board. Where Dota 2 and League were already well established before the Hero League got on the table. As like, hey, here's Blizzard's competitive league. Everyone's like,
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm already watching League of Legends. I'm already watching Dota. I don't need more content.
And that's the other thing. Like, I don't remember, but like ranked mode did not exist when Heroes of the Storm came out. I don't remember
It was
how
really
long
early on.
it took. It and also like Heroes went through like I don't know, like a couple of big like changes over even like after the game was out. Like remember when the game was initially out, like you could only pick certain talents and could only pick like one of the two ultimates until you were like until you were like a certain level in the account, and then they like swapped it over to hero levels. This has nothing to do with competitive, by the way, but like
But it's
Heroes like
important.
went through a lot of changes like in the early going, even after the game was already out.
Yep.
And I think that hurt it a little bit. And I mean, I mostly think it's like what Dodge was saying, and we mentioned it earlier. It's just like the community was already saturated in League and Dota, and like Blizzard had HOTS had its following. It had a small following. I would a relatively small, but like compared to League and Dota, and they put a bunch of money into it. But again, I just like they couldn't get other people to migrate over from League and Dota onto theirs because they were already entrenched in their own thing.
Here's something that it's not going to be fun, by the way, but here's a little game. Dodge.
It's a game. It's not fun. What's up?
Can you name your 5 favorite League of Legends pros? And if you can, name them now.
Like all time?
Just name 5 that you like now, all
Oh,
time.
there's so many people I love watching though. Like, I respect Double F a lot.
Sure.
I think he's really good. I loved Crown before he was on CLG. Interestingly enough,
Uh-huh.
a lot of the pros I like are actually Korean.
But you know who they
Faker
are, right?
obviously
Yeah.
is insane to watch. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I could name dozens of pros
Yeah,
off
you
the top of
can.
my head.
Oh,
I
yeah,
could
you
name most
can.
of the people that play right now in LCS,
I could name some
and
too.
and
Like,
I could name people who played back in like season 5.
yeah.
You know, like Zion Spartan / Darshan, Huni.
So, okay. And Spoon, you watched probably more HTC than either of us. Can you name any of your favorite players in HTC?
Nope.
No, you can't. Okay. This is the
Mhm.
point I'm going to make. League of Legends and Dota. The sun's killing me. Sorry about this. You're getting a lot. I'm getting a lot of sunlight here.
What's the sun?
The sun. Well, it's this big star. Um.
Mine doesn't exist outside anymore.
So
It's 9 o'clock.
my point though is, League of
Yeah.
Legends and Dota 2 do a really good job of highlighting players and making it feel like the players are exciting. I think explosive is a good word for it. And they like add their stories behind these players. You know who they are. Like, you know who Bjergsen is. He's got the beard. He had the beard going now, I guess. I don't know why.
Beardson.
He's got
Mm,
Beardson now. There's a lot of stories behind these players.
Beardson.
Here's the Storm. I don't know a single player. I know like Rush was a player for Here's the Storm, not the Russian League. There was another Rush in Here's the Storm
I,
who was really good, and that was it. That's all I know.
I think Try Courage actually brings up the best point. Is like he mentioned with Grubby, is it's very hard for one player to carry, and I think
Yeah.
from a fundamental design standpoint in HOTS, it is. And in League
yeah.
of Legends, back in season 3 especially, which is when it blew up really big, Faker was the biggest name on anyone who plays League knows who Faker is. From
Right.
people who don't watch competitive to people who are the highest ranked players to people who are the lowest ranked players, they know who Faker is
Right.
because he is the best player in League of Legends of all time to a degree of absurd gap.
Yeah.
Like there's no one even close to talk about anymore because of the success he has. But it's because he was so outstandingly individually the best player in the world that you could look at every game and say, we need to watch that guy because he's the best player on this rift. Every game. Whereas in HOTS, it's like, this is the best team,
Yeah.
but you don't know who's the carry,
There's
right?
no like
You have
yeah.
2
There's no
DPSs
stories.
and like
Yeah, no, there wasn't with
there's no
that.
stories, like you mentioned.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% because like it's kind of impossible to like solo carry in heroes because as again we talked about earlier, when you get an advantage in heroes, you're getting experience for the team and like you're pushing towers and stuff like that. It's not like you don't get like big item spikes and like, oh man, I'm an 80 carry with like 2-3 item power spike. I'm gonna one shot this fool right here. Like, all right,
Or get one shot.
cool. Like, yeah, or get one shot, whatever. But like
Yeah.
it doesn't you're like Ophelios, you're gonna throw your ult out and just like one shot
And,
their whole team. It's
and
like,
the
all
big
right,
plays
cool.
in
Like,
HOTS are big team plays,
yeah.
right? Not big individual plays.
I mean,
There's
occasionally there's like a solo kill, but like
so
solo kills don't do that much in HOTS.
No,
They
they
really
don't
don't.
really.
and they
Like,
don't happen very much in professional
yeah,
HOTS. Like
yeah, no,
I've
yeah,
very minimally watched HOTS, but
Uh,
even like when I was watching like Kuru's games, and he was like a platinum player, right? Playing in Heroes of the Dorm,
Dorm.
which is the college version.
yeah,
There's still not solo kills because people it's so hard to get a solo kill unless you're just vastly
like,
misplaying, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
You have to
The
make a big
lanes are
mistake
shorter.
in
Like
order
there's
to
not
die.
room for this like raw skill disparity that you see in certain games. And I can't say anything about Dota. I've never watched professional Dota personally. I've like maybe watched one game at the international ever, and I had no idea what was going
But
on.
like
But
even
like
I know some Dota players. Like I know Sumail. I'm pronouncing it wrong, I think, but Sumail. He was like
I know
on
Crit.
EG. He was on EG. He was like the wonder kid, basically. He started playing when he was like early on teenager. I don't even remember how old he was. But it's just like you know, even the Dota 2 players, you just know who they are, and it's just
You know some of them.
crazy.
The other thing about HOTS is that like man healing can be cancer sometimes. And that,
Oh
like,
yeah.
do you remember the double support meta going on?
Yeah,
and
that
like
was
that
bad.
was a whole season in H.
That was bad.
That was Resident Sleeper. Like,
That was
it's
a
just like
really
double
bad
support
time.
meta. Like, no one died ever, and it's like, all right, like shields and heals for days. Like, nobody dies, and it's like infinite length fights of just like healing and shielding. And it's like, all right, this is like nothing's going on.
So
Like,
then, do you guys think HOTS failed as an esport because fundamentally the game isn't well designed to be watchable
It's
as a sporting level?
I no, I think it's mostly on the community. I think like some of these points we're making about the healing and about like individual solo plays and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's mostly on the community. But I do agree that like some of these things like game design wise are a problem with it.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was fun. Like
Okay.
I thought it was pretty fun to
So
watch
it's
to
less
be
of the
honest. But
game standpoint, but actually the is it more of the game itself though is what I'm wondering? Like is it the design of heroes as a game that's an issue, or is it the characters within heroes and how they
It's
interact that's the problem?
there's like
Or is it both?
different factors in all of those buckets. I think like
Mhm.
the game designed to be short is weird because it's because like when you do pick and ban and then you get your 15-minute game and it's just like the games are a little short, which isn't like it's not
Easily
like the worst thing in the
digestible,
world, but like the fact that they're short is kind of weird because you're like they would throw in ad breaks in there and it's like weird. It like kind of broke up the momentum that it had. Um, it also had like a problem with its design for the fact that there's not a carry. Like it just like doesn't
yeah,
make it necessarily exciting for specific fans to just like
yeah,
follow players.
yeah.
And so
No,
like you can't just
that's
like
true.
you can't be
Eh,
excited about the carry or the person that's like
Yeah,
your person you're following. There's no
No,
star. It's just like there's a
like I
bunch of
mentioned with
there's a team, but that's about it.
and with what I mentioned with the solo queue thing or solo kill thing in League of Legends, like, you can outplay your person in a lane because the lanes are longer too. But in addition to that, you have a member on the game on each team who's designed to impact those individual lanes, right? In Heroes, people are generally moving as groups, right? They're
Mhm.
roaming as a team to objectives, they're roaming as a team to a lane to gank, right? There's multiple people. It's very, or like you have, people set in a lane. There's no one designated to be in an isolated area of the map that's able to translation on their own for the most part.
Right.
There is some characters in HOTS that function best like that. Things like Nova, they don't do well in lanes. They do well going back and forth. But
Yeah.
in League and in Dota and in Smite, even, you have a designated jungle player, right? They are in the jungle and generally out of vision and off the map to create this early pressure and early action, which is what League's gone through with a couple of their interventions where it's like there was a phase in League of Legends where what you would do at the start of the game is you would pick your draft champions and you'd say, wow, this matchup top lane or this matchup bot lane really sucks. So we're just going to flip the lanes so we don't have to deal with it. And the first
yeah,
9 to 10 minutes of the game would be each team would take a tower, flip the map, take the other tower, and the first 10 minutes would be the exact same every time. No one would die, nothing would happen,
Right.
right?
that was
And
the
so
worst. That was the
yeah,
worst. That was the
it
worst
it
meta.
was great from a design from like a professional standpoint, genius play, right? Like
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
very smart to work around that.
tactically very smart, like Resident
But it
Sleeper to
is
watch.
it goes
So
down as one of the most boring metas we've ever watched in League of Legends, where you have top laners on welfare, like in income. That's what Darshan called it that. One of the professional players. He's like, you're essentially on welfare. You're taking every little like coupon you can get up in
was
the
that
top lane of
was
CS.
what was that the meta where Dyrus had his infamous quote? I just want to play League of
I
Legends.
No, no,
just
no,
want to
no.
play.
That was actually before that time where
Okay,
junglers were just
God.
really strong and you
yeah,
could tower
I
dive
just want
very
to play
easily with
League
I,
of
towers real
Legends.
quick.
It's
So
so
I
good.
guys,
he would
I
just
just
get
want to play
dove
League
by
of
3 or 4
Legends.
people top
Okay.
lane while his team did something else.
Oh,
Happened there.
can I
But
also make another comment? I think another reason why, and this isn't necessarily the esports side, Blizzard just did not listen to their pros at all. They
nope.
would make these like they would come out with maps and like different like heroes, and like the players would test it, like, no, this is probably not going to work. Like
Oh my god.
Hanamura
Yeah.
is the best
Yeah.
example of this. They had a
Uh-huh.
map come out from Hanamura for the Overwatch map, and they were just like the players, all the pro players said the same thing. Like, this is not a good map. We don't like it. Don't release this. Change it. They released it anyway. They just didn't care. It was
Forced it
the
into pro play.
worst map
Yeah.
Mhm.
ever. I know we
Got
had
that in
one
every
person
pro
who
play
liked
game,
it.
basically.
I'm sorry. It's a horrible
It-
map.
It got banned in every pro play game, and after like I don't remember how long, a couple months or something, they just took it out, and they're like, all right, everyone hates this map, take it out, and then they
Horrible.
eventually reworked it. It's fine map now. It's
And-
not like the best or anything, but it's okay.
And
Like,
again, I always talk about League because that's the best perspective I have in terms of like I've been playing consecutively for all these years. But despite what Reddit will tell you, Riot's devs listen to their player base almost more than any other game dev I've seen. Right? Like they do micro patches mid patch. Say this new champion got released, they are very overtuned. Day one, they will drop nerfs on that champion and change
Right.
numbers because they don't have the PBR base. You don't have the numbers that you can get from a live server, right?
Blizzard
Like
is just
Blizzard and Overwatch, they don't make changes for
oh god,
months.
Blizzard in
Like-
every one of their games is horrible. I
They
have to
take
be honest.
months to make changes. League of Legends has patches every 2 weeks that are major changes.
Blizzard's
Like
horrible.
usually League's rotations go big patch, smaller patch, big patch, smaller patch. It alternates through, right? And smaller patches are sometimes number tweaks, and big patches are things like new characters, new
like
interactions,
reworks, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes, and like you mentioned, like Vector mentions, really apparent with Ghostcrawler, they did a great job in later seasons of saying, we're going to set a schedule for changes. We're going to roll it out like this. We're going to make the changes slowly over time. We're going to let the community know on this public beta realm, these are the changes that are happening. Come test this out. New characters on the realm. It'll be available in a month. Come play them out. Tell us what numbers work. Tell us what numbers don't work. We'll make adjustments.
Yeah.
But even when they mess up and release something to live that isn't good, like in the case of Hanamura, in League of Legends, we've released champions that are shattered, broken on day one. And back in season 2, 3, they didn't fix that. But now, like, you're seeing day one nerfs, week one nerfs. Like, Aphelios has been, and credit to Riot recently, especially with Aphelios, since his release, he's gotten 6 consecutive patches of nerfs and no buffs because people are still finding new ways to use him,
Right.
and people are getting better at the character. So they have to say, okay, now that the player base is this good at the character, we're seeing that he is so strong in this way, we need to tone this down a bit.
With
And they're
Go
even
ahead,
better
go
now
ahead.
because they used to space it out more. So it'd be like they get nerfed one patch and then they leave him alone for another patch and he just dominates the meta, and then like, okay, maybe we nerf him again a little bit, and then like maybe they go too hard and then like they hit him with like the nerf bat too hard too many times and that character just goes in the dumpster like they've done with a lot of characters before.
With-
But that's a whole nother
with-
balance
with-
issue.
with Blizzard, I mean, it's just like it's all their games. They just like don't listen to anybody. I mean, Overwatch had the goats comp with Brigitte for way too long. It was like over a year.
I was a
They
big
had
fan.
there was
They're
one where I had an Overwatch buddy of mine. We know him as Trounce. He showed me a video of Overwatch when like I think Sigma came out. It was
Oh my
just
God.
like barriers
The
upon
barriers.
barriers upon barriers.
It's just like Orisa, Reinhardt, and Sigma, and you
I-
just put up shields.
I actually was like, what am I looking at? I don't know what I'm looking at. There's too much barrier. He said that's the point. It's just like Blizzard also allowed Pirate Warrior to exist in Hearthstone. Blizzard,
Goats existed for 2 years in
yeah, it
Overwatch
was just horrible.
League. It was the meta for Overwatch League for
What
the
else?
first 2
Oh.
full seasons of Overwatch League.
For Heroes, Spoon, you know this, and Ghost has a joke with it. Ban Japan. We had Hanzo and Genji. Ban Japan.
Hanzo Genji.
You just ban Japan.
And Hanamura sucked at the same
It
time.
was just
Yeah,
like
Hanamura
ban
too.
Japan. Just like ban them all. It's just like ban these heroes because they're so broken, and Blizzard just like so slow to fix these. It's just like it does have an impact on the esports side too, when just like you're
Yeah.
not communicating with your players, your top players, and it's just like just like ban Japan was the best thing that will
Yeah.
ever.
Hanzo Genji, get him out. We
Ban
don't play
Japan.
this crap. Get that out of here.
Ban
No
him
way.
That was the
No
best
way.
thing. That was one of the best things I had ever heard.
Yeah.
That was so
Um,
League of
good.
Legends famously had a hero that was so,
So-
shattered he was banned in 99% of games in Kassadin.
It was just
throughout
horrible.
Season 3
Yeah,
and season
Just
4.
horrible.
But
In so
Riot. No, Riot straight up during the cast, like that was season 3, I think,
Yeah,
right?
they admitted that he was shattered.
They came up, they're like, yeah, Cassidon's busted. We're thinking about it,
We'll
but
get
we don't
to
know
it.
how to fix it. Just
Just
we
ban
know,
it.
just ban it. It's
They
fine.
didn't
Like,
ban
want to take out the character completely and just basically like remove something because then they just have to change it again. So they were trying to slowly figure out like what can we do to make this character not the most busted piece of garbage since sliced bread.
yeah.
It's
And
just-
But
like,
at least
his numbers were insane though. Like
at least like Riot came out and straight up acknowledged, like, yeah, we know he's broken. We're sorry. We don't know what to do about it right now. Just ban him. It's fine.
and
Like,
back in
Yeah.
season 4 or season 5, I think it was, when they reworked Lucian for the first time. He was so strong that Riot came out and said, we are we are initiating a competitive ban on this champion because he is too strong. Like he was
Yeah.
globally banned across all and that sounds like a joke, right? It's
Yeah.
funny, but like credit to them. They said, you know what? This hero is dominating too much. We need to adjust them anyways. You know what? We're not going to make teams on red side be crippled by the fact they can't first
Yeah.
pick it.
Just have to
Yeah.
ban it.
Global
Yeah.
ban on the character. We'll fix it in a month or two, and then we'll
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah.
It happened two
Yeah,
times in
Blizzard
League history.
Blizzard
Two
never
times.
does. Yeah, Blizzard takes forever to like change stuff. They, as Otto said, they don't really listen that
No, they
well.
don't.
Like maybe eventually, but it'll take forever. The one thing I'll say that I liked about
Super
Heroes,
Shimano builds.
like that I like about here, like I like the different maps in Heroes, and like there
Mhm.
was strategy to that in competitive. Like you would like they like pick ban like maps also along with like obviously then
Yeah, I
doing
remember
draft
that.
for like Heroes. So I like that in Heroes. They're obviously like Blackheart's Bay still remains like the worst freaking map ever, other
It
than
took
like
too long to get more
other
bans too on characters.
other
It
than
took too long.
original Hanamura. I mean, I think League had that issue too, that like it
Oh
took
yeah,
too
for
long
sure.
to get to 10 bans. But yeah,
But they had to figure out how to do it too. But and their
yeah,
whole
that
role system was kind of
yeah,
screwed.
that's true. And like so yeah, there's things that I liked about Heroes, but I also think the other thing, going back to competitive like real quick, like with Heroes, is that like again the game was designed to be like more approachable and more casual, and then they
Mhm.
tried to make a competitive scene out of it. And it again, there are things about it that I think were good and interesting. Like the team play was good. The
Yeah.
other thing that's good about like there's a lot of like the games move faster in Heroes. One, like the lanes are shorter, there's not as many structures, and then like objectives pop up much more often. Like there's
Yeah.
these forced like team engagements like on every map with these
Which is good.
objectives spawn like a couple minutes into the game or
Yeah.
something. Where like in League, unless you're doing like
Oh my
early
God.
ganks or like tower dives and stuff, like there's no objectives going on. It's better now because there's like Herald and there's like double spawning Herald and Drake is really important. Like I think League is actually in a really good place right now in terms of game length and like that kind of stuff. But there were points like again with the lane swap meta and even other points
Tank
where like
metas.
there's
Tank
just
metas
like
were bad
there's
in
just
League,
like
dude.
nothing going on for the first 20 to
Mhm.
25 minutes of the
There's
game, and it's
actually
like all
a clip
right,
I have of a
like
professional Korean game that I watched live that was like 30 or 40 minutes in, 0 to 0 kills as the second Baron gets taken, and nobody has
yeah,
died yet in the game.
yeah,
So
it's like
nothing has
all
happened
right.
except for just and one team's like 10,000 gold ahead. And there's been
No
no
kills,
fighting.
no
Nobody's
kills.
died. Like it's like how?
Um,
It's like and there's a tank meta. I have a clip where it's like tanks were so ridiculously OP for like a good couple of months in League of Legends that like one of the casters like they're like, oh, that was like a 9 out of 10 on the almost dying scale for that tank. And then like they try to like flank him again. They're like, oh, now they're gonna try to kill another tank. And then like he starts walking away slowly. He's like, so what'd you do on the weekend, Papa Smithy? Because I know he's not gonna die because he's so
oh
tanky.
yeah, I remember you talking about that. That was a
It's
good
my
one. I
favorite
remember
clip I've
that.
ever seen. So what are you gonna do on the weekend, Papa?
So, I hate to do this, guys, but we're hitting pretty close to that 2 hour mark. For those of you that watched before, we try to wrap up around this time. There's so much more that we could obviously touch on. It's just like I
Where
I
are we
think
now?
like there's just a lot of good stuff that we can build upon. Maybe at some point in the future, maybe we'll have like a MOBAs 2.0. But just to sort of close things out, this is the Myriacast podcast. We every Monday try to have this conversation much like this. Typically it's been Spoon and I. Dodge was our guest today, and Dodge, thank you for coming by the way. It was really great to have you, especially for this topic in particular, so that you could talk about League of Legends and such. But you know, be sure to not just follow us obviously here on Twitch, but we have a Twitter at the Myriathon. Our YouTube, if you like the VODs, is the space Myriathon, and we do have these also. The audio goes on to Anchor, which goes to Google Podcast, iTunes, as well as excuse me, Spotify. So please be sure to follow us there. So
I think they're
now
all, like right down there in the corner.
Yep.
it's
all,
this
all,
yeah.
all
So
in the corner.
bottom
Other
left
corner,
there.
other
Yep.
corner, that one.
But yeah, if you're interested in watching and maybe you missed the beginning of this episode or are interested in watching one of the previous episodes, again, the Space Myriathon on YouTube. We have all the VODs. The one for today will go up at some point tomorrow. It kind of
Probably
depends
tomorrow.
on how long. It'll be up at some point tomorrow. It depends. Like
Eventually.
I know last week it took until like 3 or 4 in the
Took so
afternoon
long.
because it took forever to upload. It happens sometimes. YouTube is kind of trash, to be honest. So whatever. But again, as Otto was saying, if you like it and want to see the previous episodes, check that out. Follow the Myriathon on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. And
Well, Spoon, why don't you actually plug yourself
yeah.
here real quick, and then Dodge, and then I'll close out on
Yeah,
that.
let's do the plugs, and yeah, follow the Myriathon channel as well, please. But yeah, for me, I'm SPT Spoon. That's Twitch. I'm SPT Spoon on everything. Twitch.tv/SPT Spoon, at SPT Spoon on Twitter. Right now I did stream a lot of FF7 Remake over the weekend, but kind of decided I wasn't enjoying streaming it, so kind of playing it on my own time a little bit. But I may be streaming that and Persona 5 Royal right now. I'm a big JRPG player. That's mostly what I stream on my channel. So if you're interested in that, check me out. Otherwise, I'll be here every Monday with Otto for Myriacast, talking about various things. We've kind of been all over the place in terms of topics. This one was pretty different. So, yeah.
Dodge, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'm Dodge, villain in glasses in League of Legends and most of my other scenes right now. You can find me on twitch.tv/dashman27 right below, or here at twitter.com/JohnAmericanAm. That's my actual name. It's a mess, and I just mostly post terrible memes, and I talk about Persona 5 a lot on Twitter right now because that game is fantastic. Go play it. Persona 5 The Royal out now for PlayStation 4 exclusively. Best game I've ever played. But besides that, on my stream, you mostly see me playing either League of Legends, or usually speedrunning is what I usually stream.
Yeah,
Very little
same.
casual stuff.
I did Kingdom Hearts speedrunning for a while, but I'm kind of off that. Right? I may be back to it at some point.
Or catch me at twitch.tv/duo esports if you want to see any League of Legends action for the league I play for and commentate for.
Awesome. And then for me, so my Twitter is at automaton89. So just the name that you see here, but put 89 at the end of it. I'm one of the people that put their birthday at the end of it because I'm and
super cool.
So my other Twitch is automaton1989. Again, I'm cool because I put my birthday on it. You can also go to automaton1969 if you'd like. That's a good one. That's another good channel. Go ahead and follow that if you want. And then yeah, most of the Myriacast updates go onto my Twitter. I've been streaming Heroes of the Storm. I went on my Silver account, and I've just been having a great time on the Silver account. I think Silver is a wonderful beast to be a part of. So that's what I've been doing recently. Sometimes I stream other stuff, occasionally, but it's kind of like off and on with a lot of things. And then also, we didn't say this before, but Myriathon has a Discord. I have a Discord. Spoon has a Discord. Dodge has a Discord. We can plug that in there somewhere in the Twitch chat if you'd like. We do have a channel in there now for Myriacast questions before the show. So actually what you can do is you can post a question or comment. Additionally, if you think we should talk about something in particular, a specific topic, or you liked something that we were doing, or you didn't like something we were doing, feel free to give us feedback there. Spoon and I are always appreciative of it. As well as if, you guys want to see more guests like Dodge, or not Dodge. I mean, it could be anybody else.
Not me. If you
it could be anybody.
You're like,
yeah.
League of Legends, just, yeah.
And so feedback is appreciated. If you don't like the sunlight that's beaming on my face, feel free. Just tell me we hate the sun.
On my face.
Just tell me. So that's gonna wrap it up. That's gonna do it. Thanks everybody who watched and all the comments. We really do appreciate the interactive part of it. Spoon and I in particular, we talked about this. We want more people to communicate with us so we can have these facilitated discussions even more effectively. We didn't necessarily plan for some of the stuff like with smurfing and the stuff after that about how we improve as players. So that's this is great when we have that interaction. And hopefully we will see you guys next week, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Same Twitch channel, same Myriacast time here.
See these two.
Yep. And like I said, thank you for joining, and we will see you all next week.
Bye-bye.
Say bye, Spoon.
Bye, everybody.
There you go.
Say bye, Spoon.